Hi, and welcome back to this free-for-all Friday edition of Focal Point AFR Talk. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Talk about anything that's on your mind. I want to talk about Nancy Pelosi and Joe Montana in a second. Then we're going to get to your phone calls. But before we do that, you may remember this in the campaign. This was back in 2012. Mitt Romney appointed a gay activist as his foreign affairs spokesman, a guy by the name of Rick Grinnell. And this was fairly early in the campaign, and I just sent out a tweet on a Saturday morning. I read the story, and I just sent out a tweet to the effect that, look, in D.C., everybody says that personnel is policy. That's a truism in D.C., and it's correct. You can tell a lot about a candidate or a lawmaker's political philosophy by the personnel decisions he makes, by the people that he hires. That's why when John Boehner goes out and hires John McCain's immigration strategist, you know that's bad news because personnel is policy. He wouldn't hire an amnesty activist to be his immigration advisor if that isn't where he was going. So I said, look, I was alarmed at this, that Mitt Romney trying to capture the evangelical pro-family vote, this was his first prominent appointment as his foreign policy spokesman. And the guy was an activist for homosexual marriage. It wasn't just that he was homosexual. I mean, that concerned me because that goes to the issue of character. But what concerned me even more is that he was a crusader for sodomy-based marriage. And so I just sent out a tweet and say what Mitt Romney just said to the pro-family community is drop dead. Well, that tweet took on a life of its own. It got picked up. Other pro-family figures began to make their voices heard, including Tony Perkins, a couple of writers at National Review Online, Dan Gaynor over at Media Research Center. And it wasn't long before this Rick Grinnell was forced out of the Romney campaign. He had to step back and step down. Now, this Jimmy LaSalvia, he heads up an activist organization called GOP Proud. So these are homosexual Republicans. He was the head of that organization. And he was incensed at Mitt Romney for not standing up to me and Tony Perkins. Here's, according to St. Louis Today, this is what he said at the time. Republican Jimmy LaSalvia blamed Romney. At the end of the day, the campaign should have come to his defense as Brian Fisher and Tony Perkins continued to beat the drums, said Jimmy LaSalvia of Go Proud. They were not denounced, and they should have been. Now, this Jimmy LaSalvia hung in there as a part of the Republican Party until this week, and he announced that he's done with the Republican Party. He's canceled his affiliation with the Republican Party, and he's on Steve Malzberg's program yesterday and explains why he's cut his ties to the Republican Party. This is clip 2. Let's listen.
I will give you a lot of examples. And it became clear to me that the anti-gay forces, and there's an industry in Washington, and they're a sliver of the Republican Party, hardly any people, but there's an industry in Washington that makes their living demonizing gay people. And the leaders of the party are paralyzed with fear of backlash from them. So, for instance, when Mitt Romney hired a gay guy to be his foreign policy spokesman, that guy was drummed out of the campaign, and Mitt Romney couldn't bring himself to stand up to the anti-gay forces who were criticizing him.
Okay, so there is a prominent gay activist who has left the Republican Party, and he's blaming me for demonizing homosexuals, which I do not do. I simply tell the truth about homosexual conduct and defend natural marriage. So, and here's the other implication of this. I think it's important for the Republican Party to understand that, look, there's no point in pandering to the gay lobby anymore. They've been trying to pander to these people. They've been trying to accommodate them, make concessions, say the nicest things they possibly can about homosexual behavior, about the homosexual agenda. There is no need to pander to the homosexual lobby anymore. It will not do you any good. You've been pandering to them for years. Where's it gotten you? Most prominent gay activist in the party leaves the party. This is a bigoted party. It's beyond salvation. It can't be repaired. It can't be saved. It can't be rescued. It can't be fixed. They're just locked into this hateful bigotry. I'm out of here. No point in pandering to these people any longer. Now, let's play one more soundbite. We got the 49er game coming up on Sunday, and I'm amped for this game. It's going to be up in Seattle. It's going to be Armageddon. They've got seismometers on the floor of the stadium. They got seismometers in the stands. They have seismometers outside the stadium because that crowd is so loud. They actually create earthquakes. They make so much noise, they set off earthquakes. The earth literally shakes. So it's going into hostile environment. It's going to be smash mouth football. It's going to be an alley fight. It's going to be Armageddon. I cannot wait. I'm actually not that confident. I was talking to somebody else on AFA, big-time 49er fan. He's pretty confident that the Niners are going to be ready for this thing. And, they've gotten drummed. They've gotten outscored. The last two times we went to Seattle, they got drummed 71-16, outscored 71-16. So they're going to have to put their big boy pants on and bring their A game to have a shot. But now here's Nancy Pelosi, clip number 3. Nancy Pelosi, big-time 49er fan. 49ers are in her district. Now, says, these people always tell us that they are the smartest people in the room. We're the hicks. We're the ignorant rednecks. We're the people that don't know anything. We're Neanderthals that just crawled out of the cave. And they, on the other hand, are the brightest bulbs in the box. Here's Nancy Pelosi. And think as you're getting ready to listen to this clip, you've seen Joe Montana play, a lot of you, and you remember his uniform number. You may not even be a 49er fan, but you remember Joe Montana's uniform number. Nancy Pelosi, unfortunately, does not. Let's listen.
All of these questions are just a subterfuge to get around to sports, right? So I'll just put my bracelet right out there. Joe Montana's jersey, number 14. Well, anyway. But the world of sport is a beautiful thing. It's so much fun, isn't it? And it knows it's not political. It's just great. It's about talent and skill. And what I like about it, it's about numbers. I love numbers.
I love numbers, Nancy Pelosi says. I'm all about numbers. I'm into numbers. Football is all about numbers, and I love numbers, so I'm all about the Niners. And Joe Montana and his jersey number 14. Well, Joe Montana's jersey number was 16. He was 16 his entire career with the 49ers. So Nancy Pelosi loves numbers, but not enough to remember Joe Montana's jersey number. Jeff, let's grab soundbite A6. Again, President Obama, we're always told this guy is the smartest president we've ever had. He's the most astounding orator we've had since the days of Cicero. And listen to how he refers to the Dominican Republic in this soundbite.
One of them is Stefan Rodriguez, who also is here. Where is he? There he is. Good-looking young guy right here. Could not speak a word of English when he moved to the United States from the Dominican Republic.
The Dominican Republican. So that's the smartest guy in the room. And Jeff reminded me that the uniform number 14 for the 49ers is worn by Hakeem Osgood, great special teams player, one of the best special team players in the NFL, as well as a backup wide receiver. All right. Well, let's go to the phones. Let's begin with Buddy in Houston, Texas. Buddy, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Brian, God bless you, sir.
God bless you in return.
I'm just melting here of all the subjects I want to mention to you, and I'm so much in agreement with you and your callers. God bless all of you. But anyway, I'm from Houston, and I'm reading the front page of the Houston Chronicle about the queer of the year. Mayor Anise Parker finally had to get married to her lover partner in Palm Springs, California, by a homosexual so-called, he's called the Reverend Paul Fromberg. And he also is a queer, and he's living with his partner. And then they had their witnesses, I guess you'd call them, two former business partners that moved to California. Incidentally, if you're talking about San Francisco, that's where most of them are. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see except you just mentioned you're going to the game, I'd like to see the San Andreas Fault split off California from the main. Well,
and there's actually, and it's kind of sad to see, buddy, that here is the mayor of Houston, which is a conservative city. Texas is a conservative state. Homosexuals cannot get married in the state of Texas. So she's gone off to California and gotten married and then come back to Houston to flaunt her sexual deviancy in front of the entire community. And you're not the only one, buddy. I'm not going to be at the game, by the way. I'll be watching, but my son is going to be at the game. He's got a good friend from college that's a season ticket holder, and my latest information is he was going to invite JD to go as his guest, so he will be there. And my son has been there for 49er Seahawk games, and he said, man, it is intense. You can barely hear yourself think. And I'm willing to bet that they will set a Guinness Book of World Records for the sound level in an outdoor stadium on Sunday. They set it I think the last time the Niners were there, they set it at 137.6, I think. You get to 150, it starts damaging your eardrums. So this is well above the sound that an airplane jet makes when it takes off, and they'll probably beat that on Sunday. But anyway, buddy, you're not the only one that has a similar concerns about California. There's a movement right now, and it's gaining some steam because the guy that's behind it's got a pretty big bankroll, and he wants to allow the citizens of California to vote on the possibility of splitting that state into 6 separate states, to turn California, which right now is one state, to turn it into 6 states. And you're seeing this basically a secessionist movement. It's not really a secessionist movement. They want to secede from the state that they're in. They don't want to secede from the United States. They want to secede from the state that's being run by liberals who don't share their values. It's happening in Colorado. It's happening in Northern California. It's happening in Maryland. And now this guy wants the people of California to decide whether they want to split that state into 6 separate smaller states. And part of it, just buddy, they're thinking just like you. And so there could be a political San Andreas fault that would carve it off from the rest. Northern California, Southern California, carve it off from the rest of the state. A lot of people would be happy to see that kind of a political San Andreas fault. We'll be right back after the news. Stay with us.